Hello hello and welcome to my show here. I'm Natasha Venter and I am a multi-life intuitive. I'm also a spiritual life coach. I really would like to help you work through a lot of your stuff that you go through. So if you can, please know that I'm here for you. The thing about life is that right now we're going through a lot of changes, like we have been going through for so many years, and I think it's part of the changes of life, we're working through so much. But it seems like the energies lately have been really pelting us, pelting, you know, throwing rocks at us almost feels like sometimes. Uh, you know, get us to get where we want to be. And, so many of us are having a hard time with our relationships. And that's why I've been felt called to talk about relationships again today on today's show. Because of the fact that, our relationships are so pertinent in our lives. And I'm just not talking about, the gift of being with a partner. It's not about the partnerships really. It's about, hello, Veronica. Thank you for following me here and being with me. I'm so grateful that it's not about the relationships that we maybe have with our partners. It could be siblings, it could be friends, it could be, coworkers, whatever it is, right? That there's about this communication that we struggle with each other. And, like I got an image one time, you know, that, how many people are in the world is how many different perceptions and perspectives we have, right? And then how many different belief systems we have, and how many different vocabularies that we have, and all, and then you add in how we were brought up, right? Which is a big key in how we work. And I got some big ahas, this weekend, and I wanted to share a little bit of them because I had a gifted friend who, oh my gosh, he just, gave me some great perspectives. And I always had some of these perspectives, but he added a tone of the humanness to it, which I was so grateful for. Because it is about the different ways that we all think, right? And it's amazing how we think in life that, oh, I'll say this and somebody will understand me. Well, we don't always think that, right? We don't always think that we'll be understood, but it's assumptions, right? We assume, and I know for me, I don't try to assume a lot in my life. It's not something that I really want to do, because we're all in the dance of who we are. So I don't like to assume people will be this way or that way. I just like to be. No, I'm not going to allow anybody on Instagram. Thank you for wanting to be on my live here. I'm not. I don't do that. But thank you for being here and watching. So going on in these dances of life, that it's amazing that we come into these relationships wishing and wanting and expectations, and then they don't play out, right? So we come up with, and then we add in different cultures, we add in, there's so many mixes to how we think as individuals, right? And I know for me that I've witnessed like 3 or 4 family members, children, same parents, kind of the same way of raising, because number 1 child gets raised different than number 4 child, right? But it's amazing how different each person is because we have our own personalities. So then you add in that conversation, right? Of how are we? Well, going into this, that, there was some situations that I have been in personally, and I'm not going to speak negatively of my husband or anything because he is a very wonderful man, very gifted man. He has gone through 12 years of sobriety. He has really been working on doing better with himself and better communicating. But like everybody, including myself, we go down these rabbit holes of negativity and stories and that kind of stuff. And how do we get ourselves out of it? Well, that's about self-conversation, right? So, I can even talk today a little bit about our own relationship with ourselves, because of the fact that, with our relationship with ourselves and doing these different things that we sometimes don't even understand what we're trying to say, you know, because we get so lost in the politics of what's happening in the moment, especially if we're having a fight with someone, or a disagreement with someone, that we get into reaction instead of interaction, right? So with that, think about, how do we say something and then somebody totally stands what we say, you know? And then we think, it's like, for me being, the dyslexic that I am, sometimes I'll say a sentence backwards and somebody will look at me and go, "Did you realize what you just said?" And I go, "Hmm, not really." Because here I let my higher self and my guides do my shows with me, so that they can have a conversation here. So it is about the negotiation of who we are and what we're going through. And, that's one thing that was brought to my attention. And I'm so grateful for you, if you're watching today, or later, that, you know, people will speak differently. And then you add in the male aspect and the female aspect. And I have a transgender child. I get the whole balance of that. I'm not trying to be political here. I understand I'll misspeak here. I'm doing with this with loving kindness. Okay. This is just about the basics. And so please don't jump on me, because I so true love whoever somebody is. But there is a different language of someone who's speaking, right? Male to female. And there was that book, Venus and Mars, right? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars, and it's about that disconnection that we have with each other. And like my husband always says, I'm a simple person, but him being simple is complicated. In my opinion, right? Because it's like, if I pick left, he'll pick right. If I pick right, he'll pick left. It doesn't matter. But it gets complicated, you know. And he'll say himself, I don't like politics, but I don't know how many times there's politics going on, right? Because it's our humanness. And I love him for that. Just like for me, I say to myself, that, I'm easygoing, but I hear I'm not, and then it's kind of funny how you think that your simplicity is actually complicated because of the way that we think about ourselves and then others, right? So when you're communicating, think about it. Okay, and I'll give you an example. That I was talking with someone who was mutual friends here, and I said, "What is your definition of a wife?" And they said, "My definition of a wife would be, that they would be somebody I loved. And then what do they do? What is their job? What is their application of their job? And what is the thing that we signed up to be together, right?" And then they asked me, "Well, what is your definition of a husband?" And I said, "The man that I love, the man that I love to be with, the one that I love to have conversations with, to walk down the street with, holding hands, the one that kind of breathes in and breathes out with me, that is a partnership, right?" And then you add on the marriage part of it. The marriage is the dance of the application of, who should be doing dishes tonight, who should be cooking, what is the whose job and would we like to be the go grocery shopping, all these different things, right? But for me, the definition of husband doesn't mean the job, it means the emotion. And the other person that I was talking to, was saying, "Oh, okay, that makes sense, that because I struggle with a honey-do list. I struggle with, and luckily my husband has a really good work ethic, so I don't have to worry about that, right? But it's how do we define our relationships? You know, define what my sister would mean to me. What does a what is that understanding of a sister? Is it, the understanding that it's somebody that you grew up with, that you love, that you have conversations with, that you do this? But does sister have a job? you know and or let's say, what's your definition of a boss? Does, you've had great bosses and every one of them has turned out to be friends, so would your definition of a boss have friendship in with it, right? And then you come across a boss that is no close to being a friend than the neighbor that is down the street that you don't ever talk to, right? But then you're hurt because that definition of the boss isn't being met by your story of what you've had before. So when you're getting into a relationship, if I can offer this to you, would be is to, and even if you're in a relationship with someone, think about your definition of that relationship. What does it mean to have this? Because I know for me that watching this other person in a relationship, it made sense why they got upset when certain things didn't happen with their spouse, right? And it was like, oh, okay, because the definition is different. You know, and like I was saying to someone, this other person here, this one of couple here, I said that I cook dinner for my husband because I love him, not because it's my job, right? And yet, sometimes it lays into being my job because of the hours that I work compared to the hours that he works. And so I said, but that's not my definition of husband. It's my definition of being a partner. It's my definition of partnership with someone. And and then you add on the husband thing, is the love thing, right? So how can we shift up these perceptions to be our better selves? Because there is no real truth to any of this. No one real truth. It's about perceptions, about perspectives, and how we know things, and how we define things. And if you look at your life, if I can give this to you too, because I want to say your truth is your truth. I'm just giving you an idea that can maybe stretch your mind a little bit here. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm giving you an idea of how maybe to do better with whatever you have. Because I can tell you a lot of our definitions aren't ours. A lot of our definitions are our upbringing, what we watch on TV, who our parents were, who our grandparents were, who our mentors were, right? So a lot of our definition of who we are is not necessarily, hi Paula, how we can be. So when we're talking about relationships and doing better, look at the definition of how you really think about them. And it isn't an easy thing to be where we're at. There's a lot of relationships that we have. And that's when find we can get more in sync with someone, is when we get those understands. Oh, that's what I'm thinking it is. Because I know having this conversation with this person about how they thought about what a wife should be, right? Where when that person asked me about what is your definition of a husband, and I said, it's someone I love and I care for. There was no definition on it, was it? It was all about emotion and love and being with, right? Now, I'm going to tell you, after 30 some odd years of marriage with the man I love, we can get a little bit lazy and sit on the phone a little bit more often than I would like to, or, do those kinds of things. And that's something that I personally have to step up and change again, right? Because, as we're going through life, we do get kind of stagnant in our application to our relationships, even our 30-year-old friendships that we have, right? And so with that if you're looking at having a relationship of long term, think about how can you freshen up that relationship. It's not about assuming, right? It's not about, oh, those past bad times or those past good times. It's about where are we at now? So there again, it's the redefining of what and who we are. Because going through life, having definitions. What is my definition of the job I need to do? What does my job require of me to do, right? What is it that the definition of um driving my car, we get these definitions and requirements and these rules to do, right? We have to, when we're learning to take a driver's test, we have rules that we got to follow, right? And then once we have it, how many still follow rules? That's the statement, right? True or not, we think, how reactive are we in life? This is a very reactionary time, very reactionary time, because we're going through emotions. And I'm going to tell you, we're going into another retrograde coming up. And I think it was Saturn that's going on. My phone is busy on Instagram because I'm live here, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And so if you're on Twitter and enjoying the show, please go to my YouTube channel, Natasha Venter AC, if you would like to make a comment. It is this process of being better, and I know for me, once I had a conversation, because actually that conversation with this other person brought me back to a conversation with my own husband about how do we describe our relationship even after 30 some odd years, right? How can we redescribe our relationship so we're not having expectations that are unsaid on a relationship? Now, that is a problem, right? We put expectations on someone that is unsaid, and then we get mad at them when they don't accomplish it, right? And I can tell you that there's a lot of us in partnerships that are tired. We're tired. We persevered through a lot in our lives. We've persevered through a lot. And I can tell you, the longer you're married, the longer that innocence of dating and that kind of stuff, gets involved. And this is a relationship with someone you want to be in partnership with, right? But this can also be a roommate. This can also be a coworker. And even if it's I'm tired of cooking, well, you can be tired if you're at the same job for a long time. You can be tired of doing something else, right? So going forward is not the easiest situation. And when we can do better, it is to do better. So if we can rethink about what is our definition of expectations on someone else. We can't be responsible for that other person, right? We cannot be responsible for that. But if we are struggling with having a relationship with people, okay, in general, if we're struggling having a relationship with people, then think about what is the definition that you have with these people. What is the requirements that you have for a friend? What are the requirements you have for siblings? For being a daughter or a son or a child of someone, right? You know, thinking of, the transgender neutral people, it's like, how can we negotiate this relationship? And, even if things are going good, sometimes there's these little whispers that are happening that can undermine us. So if you are noticing that there's these little tensions that are going on, and those tensions can be coming from us because we've just gone through something. And I know for me personally, it's like being married for the 30 some odd years. I'm tired, being 20 some odd years living with an alcoholic, that wore me down a little bit, right? that wore me down in the sense of, I don't want to say the PTSD, but there was a lot of times where I had to be reactionary, you know, and that wears the being down, myself down. And so, there's sometimes where now when somebody gets upset, I just kind of walk away. I don't want to deal with it. It's not that I'm trying to push it off on somebody else. It's not that I want to not deal with it, right? It's not about that. But it's about that I'm just tired of conflict. And, conflict is something that we go through. So negotiating these stories of who you are and what you are and how can you negotiate this better and what is the wisdom that you're going to get from it, right? And as I look over to these cards here, wisdom of Babylon. I'm going to pull a card right now on this because going into our life and going into the story, it is about negotiating who we are and our truths are being woken up, right? Like we're going to be going into the summer of retrogrades, and this we're in Pluto, and retrograde is about our shadows and our stories and our ooh, and our frog. um how do we negotiate? Oh, so Paula says on Instagram, too many people get frustrated because we expect them to behave and think like themselves. Yes. Or like us, that we get frustrated because they're not acting like us. They're not talking like us, they're not interacting with like for me, I don't judge people. I try really hard to judge people, having somebody that acts the same way all the time, I just say, I really am sorry that I can't listen to you like this because you've been whiny all day. This is a couple kids in school, right? And so, you've worn me down a little bit, and I'm just not going to be interacting with you as much because I want to be kind to you and not judgmental. But you need to work on listening to what is being said, right? And and there's this that pushing. You need to listen to what I'm saying because what I'm saying is the right thing. Not always the right thing for everyone, right? So, when we behave like our true, that's one thing that I was talking to somebody the other day about how, when we get to know ourselves better, we value ourselves, we know who we are, we get comfortable in ourselves, our tribe comes to us, right? Our tribe really comes to us, and we get the dance of oh, I opened right up to frog. Isn't that the way the universe wants to walk, right? So they, oh my gosh, I love synchronicity. Oh, being in sync. So frog, cleansing house, releasing emotional baggage. Yes, emotional baggage. And so when we're dealing with relationships, right? When we're dealing with those relationships, it's really hard to negotiate. So frog says that it's time to clean house and get rid of the clutter in your environment, your head, your heart. Move out of any move out any objects, thoughts, relationships that hold you back. It's time to get rid of anything that clutters your life or your space with unwanted, burdensome energy, or anything that weighs heavily on your heart. Look around you and take stock of what surrounds you. Does what you see hold positive and supportive energy? If not, it's time to throw it away and release it to something so that it can, in turn, will release you from the influences. When the frog appears, it's always spring and time for cleaning your house so that you allow new fresh energies to enter your world. Frog says it's time to release all things no longer appropriate to bring on your journey. Then you can hop to the next lily pad, light and free. Ain't that a statement, right? Ain't that a statement? So when we get definitions to our lives, right? When we get a cleaner understanding, that actually helps lighten up our relationships. It helps lighten up our world, right? So even like me, I was really looking at rearranging this part of my spiritual room, right? And I got it to the way I like it, but I'm not using the cabinet behind it like I would like to. And it's not a should could. It's a I would like to, because of the fact that why do I have it if I'm not utilizing it? And I do have books in it. I do have spiritual books in there, but bring them out to use them or get rid of them, you know? And, there's this process of, okay, negotiate world, negotiate life. What is the definition of me helping myself do better? Well, I work with Feng Shui, so I know a dead space or an unused space is a sleeping space, right? So if we have an area of our life that is sleeping, then we're not utilizing it. Okay, so if I start utilizing it, I'm going to have to give it a definition. What do I want you to do? What is it, the thing that I would like you to process with me, right? And so, like a cabinet, some people will use, I'll say a bookshelf. People use, some people have the definition a bookshelf only can hold books, right? Well, for me, I have bookshelves that hold items. I have bookshelves that have held clothes. I have had bookshelves um, that held very special food items. So bookshelves, toys. And so, how do we negotiate these things? Um, okay. So Paula says, I think our society struggles because the words we use to define our relationships are all attached to emotions. So there is no real simple definition, i.e., love, hate, honesty, and trust. And I so agree. Thank you for that perception. No worries. No wonder it is so difficult. Yes, because, like for me, I say I love someone and it means totally different definition to somebody else, right? It totally means something else. I love with defined love. I love without judgment. If we all have our rules. Yes, Paula, we do all have our own rules, right? So thank you for being on here and helping me with this conversation, because I love conversations. I love having these knowings because it does clean things up, right? So how do we redefine? We ask questions. Well, what is your definition of love? Hmm. Somebody asked me, what is my definition of love? My definition of love is love that comes from divine, the world, around us, the one that knows how to be bigger than what it is, right? Uh, Love for me is defined as something that is free and is ever moving and ever changing, because it is ever changing. Somebody else can define love as, well, I love, they did the dishes today. They did laundry today. They sat with me and looked at me and held my hand. You know, Neither is wrong, neither is right, because it's our own statement of truth. But I'm going to tell you, there's a big difference in that perception if you're coming into a relationship with someone, friend, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever that statement is, relationship with, what is the definition of a friend, right? Or a boss to an employee. When you get into that just woke up something in me. What is the definition of me being your employer and you being my employer? Ain't that a statement? Wow, wouldn't that make our understanding of our boss a little bit better? Wow. And or the definition of, and we do get definitions through time. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, that we don't know these things, okay? Because we do, if we're an observer of life, then we do get better definitions about who people are. But still, after 30 years of marriage, I asked my husband what was his definition of wife. I kind of got a big aha when he told me, right? Because even after 30 years, I always wondered why certain things were triggered. And now I know why more, because I have information. And that's the thing about life. The more information you have, the more you can negotiate what is with you. What is with you? And you have to be vulnerable when asking these questions because you have to be willing to hear what that other person's truth is, right? That's not always easy because not everybody wants to communicate well. Ooh, what is the definition of communication for some people? That's a that's a interesting process, right? So thinking this is like a rabbit hole. You can go down this rabbit hole and really overanalyze life, but I'm asking you these key points in your life um, when you are negotiating something that you can hopefully negotiate, asking some of these, if this is an important relationship to you, I would ask some definitions that if your relationship keeps jumping over, what does it mean to be uh uh what is your definition of somebody wanting to be one-on-one with a friend, right? What do we want with this? What is our expectations? What is our wishes and desires? Right? We have to communicate. And I'm telling you that I did this with a friend of mine. She's a newer friend of mine. She's come into my life in the last well, actually a year, but I'm going to say really we've gotten down closer in the last 6 months. We're now going dancing, and we actually defined what our understanding of this moment was, right? We talked about it. What is this going dancing to you? What is it going to me? And then we were able to understand when we looked at each other, we'd go, are we done? Yes, we're done. And we're done in a different way than what other people think we're done. Our soul is done. Our soul is filled. Our those moments that the energy shifted, and we're understanding that. So Paula, again, thank you for speaking up. The vibration of energy shared with someone with a certain amount of renaissance with the okay, I'm sorry, I struggled with that one. So I'm going to reread it. Tweaking, of course, yes. So the vibration of energy shared with someone with a certain amount of resonance. Thank you, with the others. Yes. So when we resonate with someone, we can hopefully have less definitions because we're more in sync. But I'm going to tell you though that if you have a longevity of a relationship with someone, you're going to want to know them a little bit more. And that is about how can we know better who we are. You know, Even my girlfriend of over 20 years, I still have communication with her about, I noticed that you're tired lately, but I wanted to go do this. Do you want to go do it with me? And okay, oops, wait a minute. I used the word tired. Her definition tired, I'm still going to keep going. My definition tired is I'm going to stop and rest. So what, and I'm using that as example, that's not who she is, but that was just an example. So with me, then how do I have to work on that negotiation? Right? I like the word that you use, tweaking, of course, the tweaking of what our experiences is with people. So don't worry about life in logistics of, am I doing right or wrong? We're gonna make there's no right and there's no wrong, right? There is a better to do and a not better to do. because who we're with, they're going to want us to have this little scenario, right? But at the same time, if it doesn't align with us, we have to define that. We have to define that. So thank you, Paula, very much for speaking up here. You've been a gift. As long as their rules don't get in the way, and meant uh, twerking. LOL. Yes, twerking. Sorry about that. Yes. Thank you for clarifying. I'm so grateful for you, Paula. That, it is going into these places, you know, but please be a little bit more vulnerable with what you need in these relationships. It's not going to hurt us to tell our sister or our brother of many years that, you keep pushing me. And when you push me, that defines that you're not trusting me. I don't know what pushing means to you, but for me, that means that you don't trust that I can do things on my own timing. So, there's a good way to negotiate these different scenarios. Life is happening around us. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to be with it? So, move forward in your life with a cleaner understanding so you can interact with it instead of reacting to it. Because there's enough life, enough things in life that we're going to have to react to. So, cleaning up the definitions of our life, our perceptions, our perspectives, our inner knowings, our inner truths, right? Because these retrogrades that we're going to go through, they're about finding balance. And the theme that is going on this next year, these last couple of years, is know thyself better so thyself can know the world around us better, right? So how can we know ourselves better? And that is about really defining who we are. There's a lot of people that have found out through COVID that they're introverts. That's a good thing to know about yourself, because then you know that when something is very uncomfortable, it's because it's pushing those reclusive understandings out of its comfort zone. But at the same time, yet at the same time, in an idea that's a little bit inspiring, at the same time, when we get uncomfortable, it helps us to stretch, and it helps us to do, and it helps us to go forward. Because of the fact that even when things are good, sometimes there's these underlying things of miscommunication and misunderstandings that is causing relationships to smolder, and then they burst. And we have a lot of relationships that are not working right now because of the fact that we're not getting conversations. We're not having these conversations. And it's worthy to have these conversations if you can. If you can. And I love on Facebook, I think he's on Twitter, I think he's on Instagram. I see them, I think, a little bit everywhere. But he's a lawyer about communication, right? And I'm loving him because he's like he has these ideas for simplistic conversations. If you have a naysayer in your life, how do you talk to a naysayer, right? How can you use them for the better of your life? So going into that story of who we are, trust yourself a little bit more. And I'm going to tell you, though, that you can't be vulnerable with everybody, but there's a line of vulnerability that we can be, because vulnerability isn't a yes or a no. It's not an up or a down. There's a lot of variances of vulnerability, right? We don't have to be vulnerable 100% all the time. We can be vulnerable 2%. We can be vulnerable 5%. We can be vulnerable, so how much can we be vulnerable with each relationship? And in that vulnerability of definition, we can really figure out how to walk into this world. So with that, I'm getting told intuitively that it's time to pull another card. Okay. What does the universe want us to know now? With where this conversation is, and I guess that card fell out. Restriction. I'll have to read this one because I know the restriction is about how do we hold ourselves back? What is life holding us back from, right? So this is 35, 35, 37, 36, 35, restriction. This marker brings notice of restriction in all things. You are in a prison of your own making, or at the mercy of which is temporarily out of reach. You aren't able to move forward constrictedly at this time. Be patient, pay attention to the next right action. Sooner than you know, the prison doors will swing open and you will yet again proceed into your greater goal. For now, take this opportunity to rest, take stock where you are from where you have come from. Ask, how did I get here? What am I not seeing? What needs repairing? Once the answers come, so does relief from the bondage of circumstances and mind. Wow, isn't that a neat, and that's what I was getting during this is that, when we aren't willing to ask the questions and sit and observe. So I would say that, before you jump into, let's say, having a conversation with your boss or having a conversation with someone and you're finding a definition of someone, right? That thank you. That, you know, when you are going into, let's say, if we want to have a conversation with a boss and you want to have the definitions a little bit more, or you want to have a little bit more clarity on what your job application is, right? Um, that we can observe that person for a little while to see when is a good time to talk, when is a good time to have a conversation. And I can tell you that sometimes a little bit more of those definitions and those things that your new boss is bringing up, you can kind of observe and get your own answers. But then that gives you another time when you want to have a conversation, say, okay, I've been noticing this, but I want to get a cleaner understanding of how I apply into that situation, right? And so getting that, if you're in a relationship with someone, like for me, married for 30 some odd years now, that, getting redefining our definitions has helped because we're not the same people we were when we were in our 20s when we met, right? Now that we're a little bit older, we have some weather between us and underneath us. And it's nice to kind of get that understanding a little bit deeper so that, because, we do slip back into old habits, we do slip into our old knowings. And it's nice to keep it going because even married 30 some odd years now, I still have to put my world back into it, right? I still have to put effort back into life. I still have to make it renewable. Renewable means that it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting a little bit sloppy here and I'm on my phone a little bit more than I should, right? Okay, time to clean that up, right? Or, oh, I'm a natural night person. My husband's a natural morning person. So I've been getting a little bit sloppy with understanding that, oh, I need tonight for myself. Well, that was 3 nights in a row. Maybe I should go to bed a little bit earlier and spend some time, right? Or the times I get up instead of laying in bed like I like to do, I need to get up and have some time with my husband before he goes off to work or goes off golfing. So how do I define that? By getting it a little bit cleaner. I can say he needs to do the same thing in his own way. But having these conversations about definitions and getting clarity about what are the expectations and the wants and the desires about life, like I was saying earlier about our relationship. What is the definition of a husband? What is the definition of a wife to each individual? Mine, again, was, you know, thinking that, my relation, when I say I have a husband, I think of the man I love, the man that I spend time with, the man that I enjoy being with, the one that gives me that, oh, moments, right? And and then when I asked my husband, what his definition of a wife was, well, it was a little bit different. But it gave me insight to my triggers that I end up doing for him, to him, about him, whatever language you want to use, right? And then him knowing my definition of husband, because I have a definition of a husband, which is the one I love. Then I have the definition of a partnership, the marriage. And what are the things that we need to do with that, right? So how do we negotiate that? And that is about being you and being vulnerable enough to ask, be observant, be aware, be this being that is going forward, because we never know what we're going to do in our life. It's about being in that moment. So with that, it is 4:45 and it is time for me to pull my oracle cards. So if you would like an oracle card, please put in there, yes, I would like an oracle card. I'm going to do Wisdoms of Avalon. And the fairies want to come out today. The fairies want to come out today. So if you would like a card of the fairies, they are like this. And they're always very wonderfully given. And when you do an oracle card, yes, please. Oh, good. Thank you, Paula. That it's about putting your. I shuffle the deck, and your intentions come through the ethers, kind of like a text. We don't have to be, with the lines here. So, fairy, wisdom of Avalon, and Earth Magic wants to come out. So I haven't used these decks very much. So Earth Magic is like these here. So if you would like the fairy deck, okay, Veronica says the fairy deck. I will do the fairy deck. And Paula, can you tell me which deck you want? That would be great. Okay, so Veronica, since you said so which deck would you like? The Earth Magic? Would you like Wisdom of Avalon, or would you like the Fairy? Oh, Earth Magic. Okay. So I will do Veronica first, since she said which one she wanted first. Okay, so Veronica, here we go, and then Paula, you're next. Okay. Thank you for being here, you guys. I'm so grateful. I want to be here and be supportive. That's my whole intention in life, is to be supportive, giving a perspective, perception of an understanding of a truth, so that I can help you bring light into your world. Instead of darkness, there's enough darkness out there. Okay, so Veronica, here we go. Wish I could shuffle like other people, but I don't. Oh, spiritual teacher. Hi, Jessica, or Jessica. Hello, how are you? Thank you very much. Nope. We're not doing that. I'm not having that. So thank you. Thank you for bringing positive energy, though. I appreciate it. So, Veronica, you had spiritual teacher. And the card says, your life purpose involves teaching others about healing and spirituality. And I would say that is a truth. I will read a little bit more here. So, SP, spiritual teacher. You drew this card because you've asked about your life purpose and career direction. Okay. This card indicates that you are a born teacher who gives advice and information to strangers, friends, family members. Your natural counseling and teaching abilities will serve you well in a professional way. You may start out by part-time basis and build to a full-time career. If you need additional skill training, your inner guidance will direct you. Ask the fairies to help you within the training, including paying for it. If you fairies and they're wanting to help, whew, I have learned, talk to the fairies. They're on the ground. They know how to get through things, right? You'll be open doors for you in many ways. Additional meanings of this card is investigate a career as a counselor or write articles or books and submit them to a publisher. A message about the spiritual teacher validates your intuition. Give workshops. Start charging money for a counseling or healing session. So, with that, Veronica, I know you well, my love, and I think that this card is really about you owning yourself, really stepping into being yourself. Don't worry about what others think, are, and be yourself. And that means that you are a counselor to others. You're a gift because you are a counselor to others. If you want to start doing this a little bit on the side, trust that. Be that if that's your inner calling, right? Because you're a gift. You're a gift. So I hope that helps you out, Veronica. Let's see. Okay, so that's fairies. Okay, now earth magic. I will do for you, Paula. Is there anybody else on Instagram that would like a card? Okay, so earth magic. This is a newer deck for me. You're very welcome, Veronica. Okay, so I have to make you use that new deck. No, it's not okay. Yes, it's okay. Okay, so just a second here. Okay. No, actually, it's not a new deck. It's just one that it's they wanted to be woken out. That's why it has to be called, because I don't use it for me. I use it for everyone else. So Paula, put out your wishes and wants. You don't have. Told you it wanted to be woken up. Ooh. Okay, so PLTZ, if you would like one, please say if you would like earth magic, if you would like fairy, or if you would like wisdom of Avalon. Okay, so earth magic, DNA karma. Okay, so this is for you, Paula. DNA karma. Let me get to that page for you so I can read. Okay, so DNA karma. I might have to use this one a little bit more. It's a pretty cool one. DNA karma. Okay, for Paula. Okay, so earth magic. Okay, I will do that as soon as I can. As soon as I get this one. So DNA karma. Isn't that amazing? Kundalini energy and the DNA strand. Because the Kundalini energy is the two snakes. Okay, so DNA karma. Karma. A concept in many Eastern religions is a Senecet word implying the greater universal laws of cause and effect, providing sorry, this is where my reading struggles, so be patient with me, please. Okay, so I'm going to start that over. Greater universal laws of effect, so cause and effect, right? Karma, cause and effect, providing an implied code of ethics within a structure of seemingly endless cycles of birth, death, and rebirth, which we experience throughout our lives. In many different versions, the mistake notion about karma is that it's some kind of punishment, but it's far from that. In fact, in its purest form, it simply asserts that our conduct in this life will determine our next incarnation. It has also come to mean how our behavior and actions in this lifetime create consequences in a slightly different version of the golden rule. Okay. We not only carry our soul's karma into lifetime, but also and embedded in the complex coding of the DNA of our genetic ancestral karma and double helix structure of DNA continuous code and have been passed down from our parents to and grandparents as well as ancestors. This in this card we see two intertwined serpents of the double helix on either side. Variations of this image exist in many cultures. We lay claim to our DNA. The functional assistance of life itself provides a sumable determination of life path. Aspects of your soul entered your primitive life self long before you began to take form. While the DNA that you inherited from your biological parents has physical components, it also has a soul pattern that came together in creation for you. You are to follow the karmic dictates of the patterning of some exists. Yet, you evolve in your consciousness and expand of light of awareness, you can make choices that shift and modify this ancestral design. So you basically can change your DNA. Isn't that amazing? I've done it. This is one of those times you can feel tug of your soul that is both ancient and karmic, yet you also recognize and persist in loving communication from your higher self. Self that contradicts the more familiar situations before you. The choice is up to you, but know that every time you heed the guidance of your higher self, no matter what ethical or physical form it takes, human consequences is evaded. In a sense, it becomes a choice between destiny and fate. So, in other words, take the higher road, love yourself through it, know that we can heal our DNA, but it is a cycle breaker, and that's the thing. And I do a session that's about healing our DNA, our blood DNA, our family DNA, and our past life DNA. And I've had tremendous loving healing happen for the person who was sitting in front of me. It's not about healing the family, it's about healing thyself to move forward. So it's a cycle breaker. You're in a cycle breaking moment, my dear. So trust that process. And it could be, I want you to ask for grace and ease, love and light, and know that no matter where you're at in your life, you're perfectly imperfect doing what you're doing. Because this is a journey, not a destination. And, as we're all going through something, it is about picking up the breadcrumbs as we go to get breadcrumbs of knowledge to get us to where we need to go. So thank you, Paula. Okay, so we had back here. Let me, if I can go back. So PLZT. I don't know how to say that, so that's how I'm putting it. I am doing this deck for you now. So you said Earth Magic. Okay. So I want you to put out in the ethers kind of what you're hoping to, if you want just a message from the universe, that can help, or whatever you're looking for. There we go. Thank you for connecting. Okay. Shuffle this deck. Thank you all for being here and watching. and being involved, because this life is about being involved and as we're going forward. Okay, connecting. What is the greater good for this individual? Cards want to get a little sloppy. So is your life kind of getting a little bit sloppy there? Are you having a hard time getting definition in your life? Well, if you're having a hard time getting definition, my wonderful one, that if you can start practicing being in the moment instead of worrying about the past and the future. I'm getting that there's a lot of angst that you're having about life, and it's time to just take a deep breath and relax, because whatever's going on outside of us, really it's up to what we do inside of us that helps us to negotiate what goes on outside of us, because it is about the journey inside to help us negotiate the outside. Like for me, I can walk into a classroom that's in chaos. You're not getting that many cards. But obviously, if you want to have a reading, we can do a reading at another time. If you go to angelicclarifications.com, you can get a personal reading with me. Okay, here we go. That's feeling cleaner now. There we go. And this card right here is the one that wants to come out. Oh, innocence, childhood. There you go. That makes sense, because a lot of us are dealing with our inner child right now. Ugh, our inner child is my first time. Yes, thank you for being here. Sometimes you said about that, and then so you got innocence of childhood. So our inner child is really speaking to us. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to do that. Why do I have to do that? And then another time it's like, I just want to get my way. Sometimes it's like, yay, I get to do something, hooray, right? So how do you do that? It's our childhood. And coming back into that innocence, right? Coming back into that innocence. So let me get to childhood here. Thank you for letting me just read the way I read, because that's the way I read. Childhood innocence. Okay. The light. There we go. So you can see this picture. The light from the heavens falls upon the children through the rays of the sun that illuminate their presence like a spotlight. The little girl reaches out for these bright beams, and this eliminates. Sorry about that. The girl and these elements together portray an idyllic childhood activity for many of us who have had the privilege of exploring the natural world. A blanket of lush meadow grasses embraces the small pond, which leads to more distant valley, one that is darker and shrouded by the very clouds that also precede the remarkable play of light. In their exploration of this world, it's inevitable that these children will at some point lose their original innocence. It doesn't have to be permanent loss. However, we don't need to live in the constant fear in anticipation of such events, nor do we have to reconcile the loss that the states of the purity by constantly romanticizing the past or missing out on the present. The wisdom and faith we occur from our life experiences are key to the recapturing the state of innocence. The light that will guide us through any dark passage is the light of spirit from within that connects us to the source. Find our innocence once again. We become aware that it has never lost, just forgotten. Innocence is simply the lack of innocence is the oh, I like this definition. Okay. Innocence is not simply the lack of guilt or shame, but the quality in itself, one that you naturally process when you first come onto this existence, into this world. There are challenges you have faced throughout life that have further shaped your personality and your character. You have also likely encountered moments following a disappointment or loss when you turned sour or cynical, and no doubt have had times when layers of anger and fear blocked the flow of your vitality, your life force. Yet, in spirit of all this, there is a care of innocence that you can reawaken by releasing any shame that has covered over the truth of who you are. Take any opportunity to heal this shame and let it go so that it can revisit the state of purity. Doing so helps you see every moment with fresh eyes, removes the filters that inhibit your light and love from coming forth. You truly are a child of God, so allow yourself to be that. So, thank you for this. And remember that if I read a card and it can sing true to any of you because there's elements of these cards that are perfect. And thank you for letting me read the way I read. Being dyslexic, it's not always easy for me, but I persevere through because I am a light of love and I want to do this for you. So I persevere through. So remember that there's always going to be darkness. It's the journey. But what did those dark times? Oh, you're very well welcome. Because those dark times are those times that really bring us to our cleaner selves, our knower selves. Because I know for me, every time I went through grief, every time I went through a hard time, it brought me, if I looked at it in a clarity, it brought me back to these moments of understanding myself better. And that is the journey of life. If we have any purpose in life, is to find out more about ourselves. Why are we ourselves? So trust that process and know that no matter who you are and where you go and who you are, you're amazing. You are made of love from the very beginning, spark of your soul. So remember that you are love and you can be loved no matter what anybody else says to you. Don't let anybody else whisper negativity to you because you are worthy of light and love. So be that. And if you're looking for any assistance in that, I am Natasha Venter. You can go to angelicclarifications.com. I do weekly posts, actually nightly posts. I just take the weekends off for inspirational moments, right? And I love to do that. I am live twice a week. On Instagram, I'm only live on Wednesdays when I don't have a guest. So Mondays and Wednesdays on my YouTube channel and Facebook, I am live with Regan Forston on Mondays, and we talk about life and the dance of the soul, 4 o'clock Pacific time. You can go to Natasha Venter EC for my YouTube channel. And then Wednesdays, Life Clarifications with Natasha. And this is what I do. I talk about life. I love to do oracle cards. So thank you, all three of you, for asking for cards. I am so grateful to do this with you and for you. So blessed be to you. Remember, if you like to listen to podcasts, these shows are on podcasts. You can go to Life Clarifications with Natasha. I'm on many different platforms. Spotify. The only one I'm not on is Apple. It doesn't like me to get on Apple. So I have to trust that. I haven't tried for a while either. So blessings to you. Please follow if you like what you're hearing. And please go to my YouTube channel. Oh, and on my community page on my YouTube channel, that's where I put my shows that I've been on. And so with that I've been on some very interesting shows lately, and they're on my community page. So blessing be to you. Um, uh, Thanks. Have a great full moon. Oh yes, it is a full moon on Sunday, and I'm going to be down in Issaquah at the um blue moon, no, not blue moon, oh god, it just went out of my head, my phone is on there. It's Strawberry Moon Festival down in Issaquah. And then on and Paula, I'm going to be on Jessica's show on June 11th on that Sunday and be talking about that. So I'm going to be on Fireside with Jessica Martin, Journeying with Jessica on Facebook Live, and on I don't know what other platform. Oh, she's on Instagram here. So blessings be to you. My love is with you, and know that you have a hug from the universe and the angels whenever you need it. Just got to ask for it. Blessed be to you. Love you, Veronica. Thank you for being here with me. Blessed be to you. Bye now.